Welcome back, everybody. As early as tomorrow, a Missouri grand jury could begin hearing evidence in the shooting of Michael Brown. A spokesman for St. Louis County prosecutors told NBC, quote, "We're attempting to start grand jury proceedings this week. Charges can be from murder first down to involuntary manslaughter or no true bill." That's a legal term for basically a dismissal of charges. Some tough legal questions ahead in that process. Let's try to sort them out. We've got Kendall Coffee here. She's a U.S. attorney in Florida. I'm sorry, he's a U.S. attorney in Florida. He joins us remotely. And right here in the studio is criminal defense attorney Midwin Charles. Thank you for being here, both of you. So I'll start with you. Kendall, why defer to a grand jury in the first place before making an arrest?
Well, there are a couple of values to it. First of all, they can make an announcement right away that they are moving, a concrete step, sending a message to the community that they're taking this case seriously. This isn't going to be avoiding it. Also, maybe a message to the feds that, hey, we're going to go ahead with this thing. We're going to evaluate it. You don't necessarily need to come in and push us out of the way. There are also procedural benefits to a grand jury. You get witnesses in under oath. So somebody's going to be committing perjury if they fail to tell the truth to the grand jury. And just as a technical matter, if you proceed by grand jury rather than a prosecutor simply filing information, the prosecutor doesn't have to prove probable cause. If an arrest is made, the grand jury's determination itself constitutes probable cause. So there are more than a few advantages to the grand jury, and I think the optics in many ways are better for all concerned.
Midwin, if they decide to drop charges, what are the next options legally?
You mean if the grand jury returns a no true bill,
dismisses charges, what's next?
Well, in the state of Missouri, that's usually where things cease. I mean, the buck stops with the grand jury proceeding. It's different here in New York. Depending on what the vote is, a prosecutor can still try to retry or represent that case to a grand jury, but in Missouri that isn't the case. So the grand jury proceeding here is going to be very important, and it's going to have a lot of weight. As you know, grand jury proceedings are incredibly secretive. The defense does not get to participate in that. It's all information provided by the prosecutor. So the integrity of the prosecutor is key, because all of this rests on, you know, how faithful this prosecutor is in getting to the bottom of what happened.
Kendall, if this makes it to trial, is this likely to be found to be reasonable force that was used by this officer?
It's so hard to speculate. It's all going to turn on whether there's a consistent narrative from eyewitnesses. We're hearing all kinds of things in the media. Somebody calls into a radio show, backs up the officer's account. But that isn't testimony under oath. One of the big benefits to grand jury proceedings, one of the advantages the feds have when they question people, because it's a pretty serious federal crime if you lie to the FBI. So until we have a consistent narrative from eyewitnesses, it's going to be very hard to know if there's going to be an ability to go beyond a reasonable doubt. There's certainly some witnesses to support the prosecution. Are there others that will back up the officer's story? In terms of forensics, a lot more to know, too. But we have at least indications of an autopsy showing 6 shots fired at a distance that was not point-blank range. That by itself is something that's very valuable for prosecutors if they decide to proceed with charges.
Raises some very serious questions about whether this could possibly be reasonable force. Midwin, there's also this separate civil rights charge that may happen. Attorney General Eric Holder arriving tomorrow in this community. Part of his charge is overseeing that investigation. Do you think that's likely to result in additional civil rights charges?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, it's a good thing that the federal government has decided to step in. It sends the message that they are monitoring this. They don't necessarily have that much comfort with what's happening in Ferguson. But as you know, Michael Brown had a civil right to walk down that street and not be harassed by the cops. So I think it's important that the federal government is involved here. And we may see some civil charges here, depending on what additional evidence exists that we're not aware of.
And even if the grand jury does dismiss these charges, we could still see a civil rights charge pursued,
yes,
correct?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Kendall Coffee, Midwin Charles, appreciate it.
Thanks for including us.
We're going to have an update from Ferguson right after we come back. Don't go away.